Hey, what's going on, everybody? Welcome back. Droid Live Show, episode 81. It is April 3rd, Friday, April 3rd. I'm your host, Kellen. With me, Tim. Tim, say hi real quick.
Hey guys, how's it going? Tim here.
Thank you for joining us. I know we've been off for a couple of weeks. We were essentially waiting for things like this to show up and talk about. Yes, Tim also has one. This guy, too. Let's not forget about him. HTC One M9.
Can't forget.
Can't forget. So yeah, the show we're pretty much dedicating to these three devices: S6, S6 Edge, and One M9. Their official launch date across the US is April 10th. So we want to talk about them, get you guys up to speed. If you have any questions about any of them, obviously we're going to have reviews up as soon as we can. The goal is before April 10th. So in case you're on the fence, if you decided not to pre-order all that stuff, then yeah, we'll get you caught up. So we might as well just start with the S6 and S6 Edge. And by the way, it's not that we don't, or like we have a problem with the HTC One M9. It's just that the S6 and S6 Edge are just, they're captivating or something. Samsung just kind of went off this year and threw something at us that's really, really impressive. And not that HTC One M9 isn't, and I don't want it to feel like we're just not giving it love. It's just that sometimes companies just do some really cool stuff. This year just happens to be one of those years where Samsung's doing really cool stuff. So we're kind of talking about the S6, and it seems to be the phone people really care about. We've run a couple of polls now. Everyone wants to know and talk about and buy and pre-order the S6 and S6 Edge, right? That's just kind of what we're looking at. All right, so you just want to do some first impressions. So, oh, by the way, I have the regular S6 in sapphire black, which is basically blue, dark blue, and Tim has the S6 Edge in white. So there it is. So we sort of, well, I think we talked about this on a show or two ago. So I'm reviewing the regular one. Tim's doing the Edge. That was sort of the plan all along. We were just each going to tackle one, see how our opinions differ or if they're similar, things like that. So you want to go first with the Edge, or should we save because the Edge is like something special and I can just get my S6 impressions out of the way? What do you want to do?
I don't know if it's that special, but you've spent more time with your S6, so let's start with you.
Okay. So got S6 this week. By the way, if you want an S6 and you don't have a problem with T-Mobile, you can like order one today and you may have it tomorrow. Like T-Mobile, it's crazy to think like most of the carriers outside of Verizon open up pre-orders on March 27th. And a lot of people pre-ordered that day and did next day shipping, and it showed up on the 28th. So even though the official launch day is not until the 10th, if you order from T-Mobile, you can basically get your phone in a day or two. I actually, because Tim has an Edge, I want an Edge too to test for a while. So I just went ahead and ordered one from T-Mobile yesterday, and it should have been here today, but there was like a shipping delay in Kentucky. But basically, like you can order it, and you'll get it the next day. It's nuts. So, anyways, I've had the sapphire black, which is actually blue, S6 for most of the week now, and obviously, I think if you've listened to any of our coverage, you guys can tell that I'm a big fan of this phone. It's incredibly premium feeling. It looks fantastic. I mean, I kind of keep doing this because every angle kind of gets like a different shade of blue or black. The screen is phenomenal. Like the Quad HD AMOLED display in this thing looks so good. I still don't know that I need Quad HD, but it looks great on this phone. The fingerprint sensor is solid and works great. And I actually have found myself using it. Performance. So I'm kind of wearing the shirt today. So, which is kind of fitting, right? Because Samsung, we always talk about all their jank. I think that's sort of when you started using that phrase the most, was always in reference to Samsung phones. So there's no more jank in this phone. It doesn't hiccup. It doesn't really stutter. Every once in a while, maybe going from an app to like a notification, then into an app. I've seen that be a little slow, but nothing I would complain about. So the performance is crazy. And then the camera is, I mean, this is a best in smartphone class kind of camera. I hate to compare this to the iPhone, but like the iPhone 6 that I have that I tested, like you just point it at things and shoot and it snaps and it's instant and it focuses and it typically gets a pretty good picture. That's what this phone does. If we've complained a lot about Motorola's cameras and HTC's cameras. Samsung has a camera in this phone that you point at things, it's focused already, and then you shoot and it takes a good picture. It's just, it's one of those phones that where I've found myself wanting to take more pictures because I expect them that they're going to come out good. And so that's been awesome. If there's any real downside so far, it might be battery life not being amazing. We're doing some testing though, because we're seeing some weird things where like if you have Wi-Fi on, cell standby shows up as like the top battery hog, which is kind of odd. And we're not sure if that's a lollipop problem or if it's just a phone bug in general. So there's some things to worry about. So what I would say is if you're reading early reviews that are already out and everyone's complaining about battery life, it may be one of those things that's going to be fixed with like Android 5.1. And who knows when Samsung's going to push that out. But otherwise, like this phone is awesome. And obviously we have a full review coming and I still have some more testing to do, but like I don't really have any complaints. It's got fast charging. I haven't even pulled out a wireless charger yet because it has fast charging, but I'll probably pull out a wireless charger because it works there too. I'm not missing, the SD card slot. This is a 32 gig version. Storage seems to be just fine for me. The headphone jack's on the bottom. The speaker is not bad. I just don't really have a lot of complaints. This is one of the first times in a long time I haven't really been able to complain about much. The phone can be a little slippery because it's glass on both sides. It can be a little slippery, but yeah, it's your kind of first impressions. For me anyway. Where are you going with the S6 Edge?
I'm leaning towards I love it. I think the first time I saw you after you got the S6, you were totally happy, and it's like the first time I've seen you totally thrilled with a phone that wasn't like the Moto X or something like that. Even though, the Moto X from last year was cool, although it doesn't quite pack the excitement punch like the S6 and the S6 Edge do. Especially like when compared to the One M9. The S6 and the S6 Edge are just like, they're very exciting phones. So when I finally unboxed this one, I've played with it for a very short time. I had to go to my frickin' local Best Buy to get hands-on time with it. And while I was there, I was like, oh man, this is super sweet. So I finally got it, opened it up. So far, I really like it. Like you said, I had a big problem with TouchWiz last year, especially in the S5. It just had way too much crap going on. So it seems like Samsung really kind of fixed a lot of those issues. It's definitely a lot speedier. Thanks to, I'm sure, the octa-core processor, 3 gigs of DDR4 RAM. It's pretty insane. So the camera, totally legit. I took a few shots yesterday of like my dog, and I went out, took some shots of some flowers, some macros. Everything looks really good. Of course, QHD Super AMOLED, 5.1 inch. That's a lot of pixels. Yeah. So for any of you pixel maniacs out there, this would definitely be a good pickup. Kind of like you touched on briefly, the battery. I think I've seen better battery. Like right now, for some reason, like yesterday, of course, I pulled it out of the box. It was about at about 50%. I hooked it up to Wi-Fi just so I could set it all up, get all my apps downloaded, because I didn't want to use all 3 gigs of my data plan just on downloading apps and setting it up. And it dropped so quick. I was at 5%, like no time at all. I had to quickly plug it back in. So it was dying. But now I haven't been on Wi-Fi all day. I have about an hour now of on-screen time, and I'm at 72%, and that's 4G T-Mos LTE all day long. 3 p.m. now. I took it off the charger around 7:45 a.m. So, that's a solid work day, almost, and I'm still at 72%. So I'm sure, if you watch videos and all that stuff over LTE, your battery's sure to go down a bit quicker, but I use my phones pretty heavily, and so far it seems pretty good. Over the course of the next week when we're reviewing the phones, I'm sure realistic usage will kind of work its way in, and we'll get screenshots and all that good stuff. But so far, I'm loving the phone. I think the Edge display is freaking fantastic. I really dig it. Some people I've been seeing on the internet, oh, it's such a gimmick, like doesn't even do anything. I'm like, well, thankfully, Samsung doesn't even claim that it actually does much of anything.
Right.
Like, the one cool thing it does is when you have it face down, I mean, the edge lights up when someone calls. It's 2015. I don't even have any friends, like, let alone friends that call me. And so I'll pretty much never use that. People Edge, I mean, it's nifty, but it's not groundbreaking. So really, and like the night clock, I mean, that's not even necessary either. So because the size of the phone just doesn't dip down enough for a night clock to even really be useful if you're lying at its side. I mean, you don't really see much of a curve. You see it, but it's not crazy. It's not a huge dip like on the Note Edge.
Right.
So I won't call it a gimmick. Some haters can call it a gimmick, but I don't see it as a gimmick. I just see it as something different. You know, it's not just flat. It's not the same thing that we've seen for the past 5 years. I like Samsung's taking chances, and I think it's going to pay off big time for it. So
worth
far,
worth that $100 premium.
Worth that $100 premium. See, now that's a good question. I think it's all just going to be up to if you like it. Luckily, you can go to, say, Best Buy or something like that, or wait until the carriers have it in their stores, and you can like go get your hands on it and see if you like it. People will say that the edges are kind of sharp and pointy. I don't find it to be pointy, maybe a little sharp, but I think it actually kind of helps the in-hand feel. Phone, I mean, it's metal and glass. It feels ultra uber premium. I know people hate that word now. Yeah. Feels super good. I dig it. That display, the camera. This is like, so we got asked in the Q&A this week, what's like the overall best package of a phone you've reviewed? And like, so far, dude, I mean, for the S6 Edge, to me, so far is the whole package.
Yeah.
This thing's a trooper, and I dig the look. I dig it in white. I like the bottom. I love that it looks like an iPhone. I love it all. I don't care if Samsung copies, whatever, man. Looks good, feels good. I dig it so far. I really don't have any complaints besides possibly the battery. But of course, I think it's Android. I think it's Lollipop. I mean, it's running 5.0.2.
Yeah.
There's a reason why Google was so quick to push out, 5.1, and all these other carriers are trying their best to get up to 5.1, because I think 5.0.2 is the issue.
Bugs. It would still have bugs, yeah.
Yeah, absolutely. So hopefully 5.1 will be pushed out soon, I hope, and that'll be fixed. So, I mean, the first day I opened it out of the box, Timo had an update for it.
Yep.
So this is my first real experience for a prolonged period since the T-Mobile HTC G2 from back in the day, which had like the slider and it had vanilla Android, Froyo, I think. So this is the first time I'm back on T-Mobile for a while, and I'm looking forward to it. The phone is super sexy. I love looking at it, and like it's a pearl white, so it kind of has its own little shine and glimmer to it, like diamonds. So
I want to know what happened to the silver version. Wasn't there supposed to be a silver gray? It's like Samsung just kind of, I thought it was white, sapphire, then there was the blue and the green, and I thought everyone was supposed to have like a silver version too, which would have been hot, but I don't know what happened to it.
I don't remember seeing a silver. I just remember seeing the platinum gold, the green, the blue, the black sapphire, and that was it, right? And emerald green. Totally, I hate to say it, but I think you're totally wrong.
I'm looking right now. I posted like 8,000 pictures of it. So
yeah, someone's asking in the chat, Tim, Kellen, can you guys really remove the S6 pre-installed apps like they claimed, or just disable them? From what I can tell, I went through and disabled like 20 apps that came pre-installed. Oh man,
there's so many.
I was gonna say I poop you not. So when you first boot it on, Lookout is pre-installed.
It starts scanning things immediately.
Yeah, exactly. And it said 300 some odd apps scanned and are safe. I was like, 300 effing apps? What's going on here? And of course, a lot of it is Samsung's own little stuff that they work in.
Yeah.
I mean, thankfully, this phone is not like janky. Like it's fast, but at the same time, there's tons of pre-installed stuff. We knew that was happening. We knew that they partnered with Microsoft to bring in OneNote, OneCloud, and all that crap. So Oh man, like
Well,
I
you should
hate
almost
that
back up for a
aspect.
second. So, right before these phones started getting in people's hands, there was this report. Some dude on XDA was like, "Look, you can remove all of the bloatware and the Samsung and all this stuff." And everyone, was headline grabbing. Everyone wrote a story that said, "Samsung's finally come around and they're letting you remove all this bloatware and all this stuff." And we just went, "No, they're not. This is just like the Note 4 and the S5. Like they let you disable. It's an Android thing, I think, is what you said." And it is in Android back in like, was it ice cream sandwich or jelly bean, where they basically allowed you to disable apps, and they did it because carriers and manufacturers loaded up with bloat, and some of us don't like it. And so if you're not going to let us uninstall, at least let us disable it. So it's the same thing here. Like,
Exactly.
there's tons of bloat, and T-Mobile's got more apps than I've ever seen before. And yeah, lookouts on there. There's a whole bunch of crapware on this thing. But yeah, you can disable you can disable, I would say,
All of
90% of it.
Yeah.
And then some of it you can actually uninstall. But it's just like every other Android phone on any carrier. They load it up with crap and you have to go through and get rid of it. So yeah, it's no different in that sense.
Exactly. I can show you the settings menu right here if you can kind of see. I mean, it just says, there's a disable button, clear data, force stop, but there's no uninstall.
Go back one screen and then scroll over. Isn't there a disabled section?
Yeah, there's a disabled list. So right now I only have about 5 disabled.
Okay.
And all
that's
of
right. They loaded it up
Microsoft
with all the Microsoft stuff.
Exactly. I left all the Timo stuff on there just because, like, since I'm a new customer, I wanted to test their whole like data type of.
So here's my list.
Oh, geez.
It's at least like 10 deep.
That's not bad.
Yeah.
Yeah, I don't know why anyone would say, they would allow you just to completely uninstall. It's never been the case. They've always just allowed through Android to disable the apps that you don't want, which is
one of
perfect.
those stupid stories that took over the internet that was completely false, and everyone jumped to conclusions. But yeah.
Of course.
So I want to backtrack for a second. Well, first of all, I need to clarify one thing. You're right. There is no silver version. I don't know what the hell I was thinking. Somebody did mention that the gold one, if you tilt it, kind of looks silverish. Maybe that's what I was thinking. So anyways, yeah, there is no silver. For some reason, I thought there was. But
well, see, it kind of looks silverish because it's platinum gold. And platinum is silver. It's kind of like black sapphire, where in some lighting it will look silver, and some others it looks super gold. Yeah. So that's just all there is.
And maybe it was I think the Galaxy Alpha maybe came in like a silver. Maybe I was just envisioning the combination. I don't know. Anyway, silver would have been cool.
It's because Apple had a silver one. So you were like, I'm a Samsung.
Apple. That's another topic we'll get to in a second. But you mentioned that, a lot of people are saying the Edge thing, it's a gimmick and it's not worth it. And what's the point? I think the point is exactly what you said. It looks cool and it doesn't take away functionality. So like the Note Edge was a gimmick. It was a one side slanted thing that was a second screen. So like the S6 Edge, it's all just one screen that curves. In the Note Edge, it was basically a secondary screen. It was way too sharp. It had limited functionality and it didn't look cool because it was a steeper slope and it was only on one side. It just looked stupid. It didn't work, right? The whole package and idea just didn't work. This phone, the whole idea is just that it looks cool. And then Samsung's like, it also does a couple of nifty little tricks here and there. And hopefully maybe some developers will one day build upon that or will come up with cooler ideas, things like that. But the most part, it just looks cool. And it does look cool. At least that's kind of, I'm like you. That's kind of how I've approached it. I'm like, I don't really look at this as being gimmicky or not gimmicky. It just looks cool. I don't know. It's something different. That's what you said to me yesterday. You're like, it's just something different. It's not just another flat cookie bar, candy bar style phone. It's just different. And so that's what's cool about it. So
exactly. Some people were saying they didn't really like texting on it. They don't like watching videos on it. They don't like looking at Instagram. Like I checked all that stuff obviously yesterday.
Yeah.
And swiping on the keyboard feels legit because your finger is kind of going over the edges and everything just feels super smooth. The Gorilla Glass 4 looking videos, it's almost more immersive. It looks like an infinity pool where the video just kind of slides off the edge of the display. And then on Instagram, pictures look good because it's kind of wrapping around. It adds a different layer to things. Oh man. And on Lollipop with material design, all the slide out menus and Google Play and maps and messaging and all that stuff, it feels so good sliding out. And you can kind of see the UI itself just kind of wrap around the edge. It just looks like Android was built for that kind of thing, considering how much pulling out from the side we do. It just looks good, and I'm excited to see what you think about it once you finally get one in your hand.
Yeah, so mine should be here. Well, it's supposed, like I said, it's supposed to be here today.
You'll
Be
get
here
it tomorrow.
tomorrow for sure. Yeah, I'm excited, and I got the black sapphire version of that too, so I can just kind of compare it to this one. But because I was early on, I just said I don't need a slanted curved phone. I just want the regular one, and the regular one, like there's nothing pulling me away from it. So until I get the edge and really play with it, maybe it'll win me over. But so about your iPhone comment that I said we'd come back to. So I showed this in some pictures, but so here's iPhone 6 and Galaxy S6. Like, do those phones look anything alike? Like, they don't to me.
Not from the back, no.
Right. They look like the camera is completely different. The color, the materials.
There's a lot different.
Yeah, they don't even look like the same phone. And so if you go to the front, I mean, I still don't think.
I don't really see too many similarities.
Yeah, I don't think they look alike at all either. If you put the white versions next to each other, they do look a little bit alike. But here, they don't look anything alike. And so the thing is that everyone's showing is this shot right here, the bottoms. And so if you look at the bottoms, yes, they look sort of similar. But no, Samsung didn't just completely copy everything that Apple ever did again. It's just the bottom of a phone. And yeah, that looks a little bit, I don't know. I'm kind of sick of the, Samsung just completely copied Apple stuff. Like they don't even look alike.
Considering how thin the phone is, there's just not a lot you could do. Think about all the components you have to fit in such a small space. Right. And when it comes down to it, there's not many different ways you can do it. I mean, of course, the USB plug has to go in the middle. Of course, the speaker has to be on the side. Of course, the headphone jack has to be on the side. I don't know what people expect. People love drama.
There's only so many ways. There's only so many ways you can build.
Of course.
I get, and it's metal. And so you have to machine metal. And so when you machine metal, like were they supposed to machine squares instead of little circles for the speaker? Were they supposed to insert a piece of plastic to change up I'm not sure what they were supposed to do differently down there.
Yeah. It's
whatever.
I think it looks good. I mean,
I think it looks good too. People
should take it as the highest form of a compliment, flattery or whatever. Oh. It looks good. Feels good.
I mean, this is without a doubt, by far, by like a mile or two, the best phone Samsung's ever made.
Sure.
Yeah. I mean, it's the Note 4 is really good, by the way. I don't want to discount the Note 4 because that's a really great phone as well. This is just different. Yeah. It's one of those phones. Like I have this feeling that we're going to be recommending this phone all year. And it's absolutely so early in the year, but
they did exactly what I hoped they do, especially for the S6. And of course, we didn't know the S6 Edge was going to come, but they took that Galaxy Alpha, had the chamfered edges and all that. They kind of mixed it with the Note 4, which we love the hardware look of it. And then they had the S6, and it's like the perfect little mashup. It feels good in hands, not overly big, only 5.1 inches. It's like perfect. So the Note is still a fantastic phone. I guarantee you the Note 5 is going to blow some minds.
Yeah.
That thing will just be ridiculous.
You have to imagine, right? They're going to do a regular Note 5 and then a Note 5 Edge or something.
Yeah, probably, unfortunately. But it's whatever. We don't have to think about it.
Another way for them to make lots of money.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah. But think about it. I mean, if they did this with the S5, the Note should be crazy good.
It's kind of unfortunate that the Note has now kind of overtaken the S6 or the Galaxy S series in terms of, where their kind of design language is moving towards.
Yeah.
At first it was Galaxy S and then it was the Note, and you could tell like the Note took its lead from the S6 or the Galaxy S, and now it's vice versa, where now it's the Note kind of shows you what the next Galaxy S will look like, I think. So,
yeah, it did kind of flip, right? Well, it's just because Samsung screwed up so badly with the Galaxy S5 that all of a sudden then they were
a year behind now.
Yeah.
So it's unfortunate.
But it's exciting that Samsung really did, sort of push the envelope like this, because everyone has to step their game up right now. Like Motorola made a nice phone with the Moto X. We gave it Phone of the Year. It was a good phone. HTC clearly didn't step their game up this year. LG's got to do something. We don't know exactly what they're doing yet, but they have to. I mean, like all these companies, It's still going to be interesting though to see like the cheap China phones, because they're so cheap. Is Samsung going to be able to sell, millions and millions and millions of these things? I kind of have a feeling they are, even though they're expensive. I mean, these are some of the most expensive phones. They're like iPhone priced. And the Edge is, iPhone Plus priced, except it's not a Plus. It's the same size. But I don't know. Really great phones. All right. So is there anything... Oh, I kind of talked about battery life, right? We just kind of said, like, we're still testing. It's one of those things. Everyone's pretty much said it's, average battery life. It's a small battery. It's only 2550 in the regular and 2600 milliamp hours in the Edge. I don't know. I wish we could just get Android 5.1 right now on it and test battery life, because I have a feeling it's going to add like 2 to 3 hours of battery life on there.
Yes, that's the problem. Someone was like, how can you recommend the phone when there's potential battery issues? But my thought is, like, we've all the bloggers, at least, and people who pre-ordered, we have the phone. It's not even the launch date yet, April 10th. Things could come eventually, say a couple of months down the road after you buy it, where Android 5.1 comes. It totally fixes the issue. I mean, dude, Motorola released the Moto 360 and that thing had like 5 hours of battery life.
Right.
Now it lasts easily 2 days.
Yeah, no, it's like 2 days.
Exactly. Things take time. Samsung had to get the phone out, so things come in time. Things do get better and improved upon. So we'll see.
Yeah, it's been unfortunate, right? Google released Lollipop, and Lollipop's awesome, except that Lollipop was such a big update that Google spent... Well, I mean, they gave us a preview in July, right? When was I/O? Was I/O in July last year? Or was it in May? I can't remember. Anyway, remember when was I/O? When did we get the Lollipop preview? Was that in May or July?
July, pretty sure.
Okay. So they gave us that in July. And then they went from, months on the preview, working out bugs, polishing off features. And then the code went live, and so everyone got it, and everyone rushed to get 5.0, and then everyone realized, like, oh my god, this thing is way too buggy, we can't push this out. And so to Google, and then it went to 5.0.1, and they went, oh no, there's still lots of bugs. And then 5.0.2, oh no, there's still lots of bugs. And then massive jump to 5.1, and hopefully they fixed most of it. But so all these companies, like Samsung was probably ready to release this damn phone, and they probably had like 5.0 on it. And that was super terrible. So they were like, well, 5.0.2, let's go with that. And then like 2 weeks later, even though the phone was probably about ready to be finalized, Google's like, wait, here's 5.1. I mean, there was like no way for them to get that out, right? And everyone's been dealing with it. Motorola is now skipping to 5.1 for all their first gen Moto X, E, and G. And so, yeah, I would just, like, my battery, I'm not that concerned right now about the battery life. Like, for me, it's pretty average. It's about what I'm getting on all my other Lollipop devices that all seem to have terrible battery life. So I'm hoping I'm optimistic, I should say, that when 5.1 gets here, it will be awesome, and the battery life will be fine, and all the bugs will be gone. That's how I feel anyway. I'm just not that worried about it. And all the other stuff outweigh. Like, if battery life is, 12 to 14 hours, which is about what I'm getting. And I always get terrible battery life, so don't use that as a gauge. Like, your battery life today is way better than mine. I can't remember what I was just saying now. I just totally lost that thought. I don't know. I'm just not worried about, the whole package, right? The display, the performance, the camera, the build, the design, the fingerprint scans, all that stuff is all awesome and top of the line. And then if the battery life is average, I'm fine with that. I am. I'll just carry around like a charger with me or something.
Yeah, that's another thing. I understand that battery is a huge pain point for a lot of consumers still, but maybe it's time that everyone carries a little quick charger or whatever, or a battery pack. I mean, the thing has wireless charging, adaptive quick charging. Like, the thing can go from 0 to 100 pretty darn quick. Yeah. So the whole battery life thing, I know I'm jaded, because I sit at home all day and I have a plug always right next to me. So it's hard for you and me to gauge what everyone else is doing. Like, every single one of our readers, we don't know what their day-to-day, schedule is. We don't know if it's going to last them, and it all depends on reception, Wi-Fi spots, and all that stuff. There's a lot of varying factors. The thing is, there's easy ways to combat your poor battery life. And that is just, have a charger with you, a battery pack. Those things are super thin and a lot of capacity. and have a wireless charger sitting at your desk at work or something. There's a lot of different ways to help you. So
Yeah, I mean, the unfortunate thing is that still to this day, the battery tech is just not, it's not getting any better. Everyone's doing workarounds to try to improve it, but they're all still stuck with the same crappy battery tech. So
lithium ion bullshit.
Yeah, I mean, it's one of those things where you and I sit next to a charger all day, and a lot of people have office jobs where they sit next to chargers all day. Obviously, a lot of people don't, and a lot of people don't have a cable handy, and that's why we promote battery packs all the time, because they're actually a really good thing to just have around. And I know some people don't even have the option to plug into a battery pack, and they just need a phone that lasts for 2 days without having to plug it in. This probably is never going to be that phone. And you should know that going in. When you have a phone that has a 2,500 milliamp hour battery, it's not going to last 2 days. If you want a phone that lasts 2 days, you have to go for Droid Maxes or Turbos or whatever they're called. And those are the phones made for you. And I know that sucks, but long battery lives that last, 18 to 20 to 30 hours, that's just not going to happen with a phone with a quad HD display and a 2,500 milliamp hour battery. It's just not reality. It sucks, but that's just kind of where we're at. And I know that'll eliminate people from buying it, which is too bad because it's an awesome phone. But yeah, battery life. We always go back to blaming lithium ion batteries.
Yeah, I mean, I don't know why Tesla or NASA, somebody isn't working on some next gen future battery tech. Get on it, Elon. You want to build hyperlinks and whatnot and
build batteries. Yeah, why isn't he making battery? He's like the master of battery tech, putting them in cars and go for 300 miles. Why can't they put them in a phone that lasts for 300 hours or something?
Exactly.
Somebody tell him to get on that. That's actually a really good idea. Elon, let's do it. Let's team up and make batteries.
Let's do it.
All right. So anything that you just despise about Galaxy S6?
Nope. Absolutely despise. No way, dude. I mean, I've had the phone for a solid day now. But nope, nothing that I despise. I mean, the fingerprint sensor actually works and is awesome. You don't have to swipe your finger. The camera's legit. Display's legit. I mean, the build's pretty sweet. And it's still TouchWiz. It looks like TouchWiz, but they've definitely enhanced it quite a bit. So I wish I could say that I had issues just so I didn't sound so, so I didn't sound so biased, but
you're so biased, Tim.
Yeah, I know.
Biased.
Whatever.
Yeah, I don't have anything that I really hate either. I'm still to this day, the home button thing, it does bug me quite a bit actually, and the soft keys, they're just not as nice as on-screen keys, but the fingerprint sensor kind of makes it a little bit worth it. I still like the clicking. I don't like to have to click in a button, a physical button. That drives me nuts, but the rest of the stuff's good enough. I think I'm okay there.
Yeah,
it's kind of nice that like my phone's secured all the time by my fingerprint, so if anyone picks it up, they can't get in it, which is kind of nice.
Yeah, people are upset that it doesn't have expandable storage or removable battery. It's
waterproof.
Waterproof. There's a few things that people may say it's lacking, but Samsung gave you the choice of 32 gig, 64 gig, and 128 gig of storage. I mean, if you need that much storage, I mean, look at what iPhone users have been put through since 07. I mean, they've never had SD cards and removable batteries. I mean, it's time to just get with the times, folks. Like,
how many millions and millions and millions of phones has Apple sold, and they've never had an SD card slot or a removable battery?
Exactly. And I mean, it really helps the overall design and the premiumness of the phone. So if you guys don't want premium phones, if you don't like that, I mean, there's plenty of other options out there. I'm sorry that Samsung did not cater to everyone's needs, but at the same time, it's their phone. Do whatever. I like it. So
I like it.
I just don't need a replaceable battery, and I don't need an SD card. I mean, while they are helpful, I don't see it as a deal breaker.
I think we need to run a poll on removable batteries. Like, I want to see how many people have swapped a battery in the last year.
Yeah, I mean, if they're doing that though, like, what?
I know, but that's what I'm saying. Because they seem like they're a pretty vocal crowd, the removable battery fan.
Oh God,
I'm just
vocal.
I'm just curious. Like, is there like 10 of them, and they're the ones shouting? Or are there like, it's like 60% of our readers swapping batteries on the reg. I don't know.
The squeaky wheel gets the grease, man. Watch next year. Samsung's bringing back the removable battery and expandable storage slot.
Yeah. I will say though, and it sucks that it's basically $100 upgrade from the 32 to 64. But this is one of those phones where you might want to just add the extra storage. I was talking to the guys about it the other day that I want to take lots of pictures with this phone because the camera's so good, and there's 16 megapixel shots. They're big. They're going to fill stuff up, and I know we all have cloud storage and things like that. But that means if you're going to manage that, you would have to go in and physically remove photos from your phone to clean up storage. So 32 gig is still quite a bit. I think you get around 24 gig out of the box that's available, which is still quite a bit of storage. But if you got a phone for 2 years, you could start, if you actually do put music on or something, or you're shooting some 4K video, or you take, 4,000 pictures over a couple year span, which you could easily do. 32 gig might be on the edge, so you may want to go for the 64 just to make sure you're okay. But 64 gig in a phone seems like a lot of storage.
That seems like it should be fine. I don't know what I know. People say they want to put their library, their music library on there. They want to put a few movies, but maybe there are other phone options out there for you, sir and ma'am.
Yeah, I mean that is one of the nice things, right? There are lots of options where phones have SD card slots. Samsung is one of the only ones that doesn't have it, which is weird because they were kind of like the champions of that for so long.
Of course, we both got the 32 gig sizes. System memory takes up 6.8 gigs, and I have 3 gigs already used up with apps and a few pictures I took, and I still have 21 gigs left. 21 gigs. That seems fine for me. I download tons of games, but I don't play them. Also, I download them, uninstall. I don't need a billion apps. I don't need all that. And I have auto backup, so all my photos just go up. While I do understand that it may be a pain to manually delete some photos, it's whatever. You do what you got to do. Like, you got 32 gigs, you got 32 gigs. You're not really working around it. Yeah. So
someone did mention in the chat, like HTC just slipped in a little SD card slot on the side. Why couldn't Samsung? And I kind of feel them on that. I'm actually surprised. It actually shocks me that Samsung didn't find a way to put in an SD card slot. But we talked about this on another show. It's all about those margins. They're charging $100 premium to go from 32 to 64 and 64 to 128. Flash storage doesn't cost $100. You can go buy an SD card for $20. It's cheap. So I think they're putting in better storage, but still, like, it's not $100 premium. And this is what Apple does. Same thing, same idea. They don't want you buying the cheap model and adding 128 gigs of storage because they're not making any money from that. They want you to buy the more expensive phone. So it sucks, and it still shocks me that they did it. But I mean, that's why they did it. It's too bad. And HTC, they have one, but they only offer one model. They only offer a 32 gig. I think there's a 64 gig M9 in like China or something, but it's probably never coming here. So that's why they have to do it. I mean, you could buy a Moto X. It's only got 16 gig and it has no SD card slot, which is you fill that up in a hurry.
Yeah.
So yeah, I mean, I don't really have any complaints. Really nice phone. We'll have reviews hopefully. Early next week. Yeah, early next week is the goal there. So stay tuned for those. You want to talk about HTC One M9 for a few minutes?
Only if we have to.
Such a biased hater.
I'm not biased. I'm just like I'm already bored with it, and I knew that was going to happen. I mean, as soon as I saw it, I was like, okay, looks like the M8. How are you supposed to stay infused by it, and not get bored with the design? I mean, we've been looking at that same design for over a year now, and it. I mean, I'm just talking as myself, not as like a reporter or a CNBC journalist like that. I'm bored. It feels good. I felt it for the first time, I think, just a couple of nights ago on Monday night, and it feels good, no doubt about it. It feels a lot like the M8, which also felt very good. I like that phone, so I do like it. But personally, if I was going to have the M9 for 2 years, I would just get sort of like, I'd be ready for a new phone pretty quick. So black bar and all that. I don't know. You're the one with the phone. I'll let you talk.
Yeah. So I used it for a good, I want to say 3 or 4 days before I got the S6. and S6 showed up, and I immediately just put the M9 down. Like, we'll come back, we'll review the M9. Don't worry. It's just going to be after the S6 because our readers, all of you guys, have clearly told us that you care about the S6 and the S6 Edge. So we do what you guys, it's kind of how we've always worked. We always kind of do what we feel like you guys want us to do, and then we come back and do the other stuff for the smaller crowds, if you will. And so I've had the M9 for, well, it's been over a week now. Like, there's nothing like dramatically wrong with this phone. It's just, it's so safe. Like, HTC played it so safe, and even while playing it safe, they completely screwed up at the same time. So when you hold this phone, it doesn't feel, if you've spent any time with the HTC One M8 and if you have the M9 in your hand, you don't feel like you're playing with a new phone. And so part of the deal, when you get a new phone, you want it to be like, oh, this feels so amazing. It feels so new. It feels so great. If you spent any time with the M8 and you pick up an M9, it just feels like you're holding an M8. Like, I was using it for a few days, and there was nothing wrong with it, but it just didn't feel like I was using a new phone. And so the S6 showed up, and you just hold it and immediately go, wow, this is something cool. And the M9, I just kind of went, okay, I'm going to put you aside for a little bit. We'll come back to you. And that's kind of sad, right? Like, HTC built a phone that, it's a pretty nice looking phone. It doesn't look bad by any means. The M8 was one of the most well-designed phones. This just looks exactly like it. So my complaints are, they're pretty straightforward. First of all, it just looks like an M8. So if you have an M8, there's no reason for you to buy this phone. Like, the M8 also just got some software updates this week that basically turned it into an M9 before the M9's even out. Like, I don't know what HTC is doing. So if you have an M8, there's no reason for you to upgrade to this. But second, there's like all these little things, right? So the design now, you can't really see this on camera, but it now has an edge around it. So there's this, it's not really that sharp, like it doesn't hurt your hand or anything, but it has an edge running all the way around the phone. And so it's like they built a case that was too big and it didn't line up. And they were just like, the hell with it. We can't fix it. So let's just put this big ass ugly thing together and we'll just call that design. It just makes no sense why they would do that. The M8's perfectly flush around the size and it feels great. Second thing is, they listened to everyone's complaint about the power button being up on top of the M8. And so they put it on the side. But then they did this really stupid thing where they took the volume rocker and split it into 2 buttons. So you now have 3 buttons and they all feel identical. And there's a slightly bigger space in between the power button and the bottom volume down, except like you can't tell. Like when you pick up the phone, you never know what button you're hitting. Like in a week with it, I still look down to make sure I'm hitting the wrong. Like it's all these little things like that just really, really drive me nuts. And then of course, the camera on the back. So, to be perfectly honest, this camera's crap. It's not good at all. I'm not even going to beat around the bush on it. Like low light, it can't even take low light pictures. Like don't even bother taking a low light picture. Like if you're indoors, don't worry about it because it's not going to come out. Like just assume the picture is going to look like shit. Actually, you'd be better off flipping it around and taking pictures with the ultra pixel camera because it's actually built for taking pictures indoors with bad lighting. Outside the back camera, it's okay. It's no better than the Moto X's camera. It's probably the same sensor. Oh no, I think this is like a Toshiba sensor or something, but it's a 20 megapixel camera. It doesn't focus fast. It snaps pretty instant pictures, but it doesn't focus. And if you do manually tap on the screen to focus on something, it just gets blown out and everything whites out. It's, I don't know. And so then, you can look at the performance. Performance on the phone's fine. It's Sense 7. HTC phones have always run pretty smoothly, I think. I don't mind Sense 7. It looks fine. It's their sort of take on a skin. It doesn't look terrible. It just looks like Sense 6, though. Like there's no real new added features that you would get in Sense 7 over Sense 6 that I could tell you about right now. Boom sound speakers are fine. But we also have the giant HTC black bar, which is one of the biggest eyesores in the history of smartphones, which HTC won't go away from because they keep telling us there's really important electronics under there. I'm sorry, but that's BS. Like fix your phone design so there isn't a giant black bar adding unnecessary height to your phone. So, look, it's not a bad phone. There's nothing that screams this is the worst phone ever built. And I know I sound super critical of it when I talk about it. Like you'd buy this phone, you'd be fine. You know, we told you to buy the Moto X and it had a crappy camera, but the Moto X at least adds like software value and all these like user experience things. This phone doesn't really. It's just an all metal phone that's pretty heavy, by the way. And it's no different than the M8. I mean, you'd be better off going and spending $300 on eBay on an unlocked M8 than you would be spending, $600 on this. So I don't dislike this phone. It's just a phone from 2014 with a worse case on it and a terrible camera. I don't know. I don't know what HTC has been doing for the last year. We talked about this, I think, on another show. Like, what was HTC doing for the last year? Making a VR headset and a camera and doing all these other things instead of caring about smartphones? Because it clearly didn't put much into this.
That's obvious, I think. I think the one thing that I noticed when I played with it was the 3-button setup. Say, for example, on the Moto X from 2014, there are the power button and the volume button. Volume buttons are on the same side. Of course, the volume up and down is a rocker instead of separated buttons, but the power button itself has texture. Yeah. So you can easily tell the difference between the power button and the volumes, the rocker itself. And
well, and like this does have a little bit of texture on the power button, but it's not enough for you to really notice.
It's not a complete like, oh, definitely power button or something. I know, like when I was playing with it, I pressed volume down or up a couple of times. I didn't know which was what. So of course, people will say, oh, after a few weeks you'll get used to it, but it just shouldn't even be a problem from the get-go. That's something that you need to think about as a designer. When you're thinking about the user's experience, like, hey, this needs to be seamless. It needs to not even be an issue.
Well, other designers have now quit, so
that's true. They only have one left. So from One & Co.
Yeah,
we'll see.
Somebody asked me, does it heat up? So that was, a big controversy as we were leading up to the device getting released or reviews coming out. And HTC kept saying, no, it's not going to overheat, melt your face. It's just pre-production software. And so they released a software update that, as far as we know, just throttled the hell out of the Snapdragon 810. So it doesn't get insanely hot. In some benchmarks that some other sites have run, they've noticed that benchmark numbers have just dropped off a cliff after doing that. So they're just throttling the hell out of it. And so they probably kept the throttling down because they were hoping to score really high in early benchmarks, things like that. And it bit them in the ass, I think. And so it doesn't really overheat anymore. And, I haven't noticed like performance hiccups. Like I said, the phone runs fine. It's still fast. It's plenty fast. And my issues are everything else, or everything else they didn't do to it. So somebody asked if, would we be as disappointed if EvLeaks didn't post those fake renders? I don't know. I just think we would still be pretty disappointed even if we didn't, because I think we all thought there was still going to be something else. Like, even though EvLeaks gave us like one fake render, I think we all still kind of went, they can't just release this, because all the early leaks were of this. I mean, this was the phone that was leaked over and over, and we just kept saying like, it's in a case. We all thought it was in a fake shell because it has this like outer ridge. Like, we all thought it was fake, and it turned out not to be fake. Like, this was the phone that was leaked months ago that we all thought was just like a dummy casing. I mean, that's what we're talking about. We all criticized those early leaks as being a dummy case around a phone, and then HTC released the dummy case phone. Think about that for a second.
I know it's unfortunate. I think I would have more so enjoyed the EvLeaks render version, just because, of course, you didn't have a black bar. And and this one, it's a rounded body with a square camera on the back, and it has like the case around the side. So, I mean, for a company that prides itself in hardware design and, making beautiful things, I mean, they fell on their face, I think, with the M9 in terms of, when comparing, you look, it went one M7 to the one M8, which was a pretty sweet jump. And then from the M8 to the M9, you're just like, well, what the hell? You guys didn't even try, it looks like. So
No, it doesn't look like that. Like you said, like the One M7, they came out with that phone. Everyone went, "Whoa, HTC is serious." They just built this all metal phone, and
yep.
yeah, we knocked them at the time for having the gimmicky ultra pixel camera. Um, but overall, the phone was pretty good, and they had boom sound speakers, which was awesome. And then yeah, to the M8, it was like they actually took the M7 and really refined it for the M8 in terms of design. Like it was smoother, it looked a lot cleaner. And they still kept the ultra pixel, but it was like you could see how it went from M7 to M8. Like it was a natural progression into like just being a more polished device. And then this year, it's like they were just like, I don't know. HTC might not be able to afford to like completely go back to the drawing board right every year and make a new phone. So, but it just looks like they went, well, we had a pretty good design last year, so let's just kind of go with the same thing. We'll put a real camera in it because that's what everyone wants. And let's go build some VR headsets. Like that's kind of what I feel like they were just like, well, everyone said like this phone was amazing, so all it needs is a real camera.
Mm-hmm. Like you said, they played it too safe. And even when they announced the phone, they said, we really touched on the pain points that consumers had with last year's model. But that's like all they did. And then they didn't even do it good enough.
No.
So they played it too safe. We like adventure. And with LG when they did the QHD with the G3 last year, we dug it because it was something different.
Right.
Hardly any bezels around the phone. The S6 Edge, I dig it because it's different. Samsung takes chances. Now, the only difference, unfortunately, for HTC is they probably don't have as much money or working capital to take chances like that. Maybe they had to play it safe. Maybe. But now we've got a new CEO. Their design team's basically all gone. So I think in 2016, I mean, look, they just announced the One M8s. We'll get into that, but holy hell, they just had so much leftover stock of the M8. They're like, let's just put crappier specs in the M8 and just name it the M8s. It's insulting to the consumers.
I don't know what they're doing. I don't know what HTC's doing anymore.
Yeah, so we'll see. We'll see how far it gets them. Yeah. 2016 should be a good year for them, though. I hope. I keep hoping that maybe next year.
They basically took Peter Chow and they said he's like the head of some new department about innovation or new products. That just means he's like tucked in a closet now. And they're like, don't come out, but we can't fire you. Just go away, Peter Chow, for a really long time because this company is about to die.
It's unfortunate. The guy has like so much passion. You can tell he loves HTC and he loves smartphones. And he's been in the game forever, probably since before I was even born. And it's kind of unfortunate to see his company sort of like dwindling away. I want to say, they're still successful and they still have good stuff. And apparently everyone loves Vive and the Re camera is totally sweet, periscope-ish.
It's not.
Yeah, we'll see. Like the M9 is just not a step in the right direction for HTC.
No, it's not.
And
then we're getting an M9 Plus apparently, which just looks terrible.
It has a Samsung home button. It's got like the speakers like all up and jacked up.
Yeah, the home button between the speakers.
Yep.
How
can they talk? I'm not going to allow them to talk about design and how much effort they put into that because
never again.
Yeah, they're crapping on design is what it is now.
Yeah.
So
it might be a rough 2015 for HTC. Who knows? Maybe people will buy their Under Armour smart band.
I could save them.
I don't think so.
No,
There's
probably
too many smart bands on the market already.
Exactly.
Yeah. So I don't know. We'll have a review up.
Same.
You guys kind of know how I feel. Look, again, this is not a terrible phone. I'm not trying to just completely crap all over this phone. It works just fine. Like performance is good. It's got Lollipop. HTC's been good with updates. It's reasonably priced. It still feels premium. It's just we review things for a living and we are critical of things when they do things completely wrong. And I just feel like they didn't do anything right with this phone in terms of everyone's complaints from last year. So. The review will be after the Galaxy S6s, so it will try to get it out by April 10th because I know that's when it launches, but it's going to be pushing it. So I don't know if you guys have feedback on the M9 or anything in particular you want us to kind of focus on. Well, we could do that, but
Yeah, we're not haters. I
Yeah,
just want to emphasize that we're not haters. We just want good phones.
yeah, we just want good phones, and we know that HTC can make good phones.
Absolutely.
You mentioned in the Q&A today that the One X was like one of the coolest phones ever made, and I would agree. The One X was awesome, and then the M7 in general, pretty damn awesome. It's just the ultra pixel camera is kind of gimmicky, but like they just came out nowhere, all metal phone. They were one of the first. It was crazy, and here we are 2 years later with basically the same phone, and nothing's getting better. So.
I think that's where it all kind of falls apart. If HTC had a legit 20 megapixel camera in the One M9, maybe we wouldn't be so critical. But to say they fixed a huge pain point with the M9 in the camera, and they didn't, and that's the real problem. Like Samsung, both these phones have 16 megapixel shooters, and they stomp the M9. So I don't know. I don't know what they got to do. Maybe get a little licensing deal with Samsung going on. Like, hey, Samsung, can we borrow your camera stuff real quick?
Well, it's weird that
help.
I think they went with a Toshiba sensor, and everyone else that outsources that stuff uses Sony sensors. So they tried to like really go different, and it's like they just had no idea what to do with it. For a company that is making consumer cameras now, like they just. Maybe the re not that the re actually takes decent pictures, but maybe the re team just doesn't work with the camera team on the M9. I have no idea, dude.
It's a square camera on a round phone. I don't know what you expected. It's a circus phone.
It is. Actually, I'm pretty sure I heard the designer, who I don't think works there anymore. He said that the camera is the same shape as the shape of the phone, and it kind of is if you look at it that way. Like,
sure.
See how it's like kind of squared with rounded. So
yeah, that guy, he's thinking a little outside of the box, and unfortunately, most consumers don't do that. They see a square, they don't see a rounded square or anything. I see a square on a rounded phone, but
I mean I do too. Look at this thing, square on a rounded phone. Oh.
Best of luck to him and his future endeavors.
Yeah, we'll just put that away. Okay, so we asked everyone once pre-orders opened up what they were pre-ordering, and 51%. So obviously not everyone's pre-ordering these three, but 51% were going Edge. Another 27% were going S6. So, we're looking at almost 80% who decided to pre-order phones. We're going with a Samsung, and 22% said M9. So.
Yeah, I will say I had some arguments with people about that poll because they were like, what about none of the above? And I figured that would be sort of useless data because, of course, many people wouldn't order the phone. So I just left it. If you are ordering one of these three, tell us which one. So I tried to explain that. Some people hate.
Yeah. It is what it
is. Yeah.
All right. Do you want to talk about the One M8S real quick to let people know what you were referencing there?
Oh, yeah, absolutely. So HTC announced an all-new phone this week called the One M8S. Now, don't get confused. It does look exactly like last year's One M8. I'm pretty sure they use the same body. Nothing's different in terms of the overall look, although I do believe this one's a bit thicker somehow. So differences include the Snapdragon 615 octa-core processor with 2 gigs of RAM. So it's down from Snapdragon 800, which was in the M8 last year. 2 gigs of RAM. It has a more conventional 13 megapixel rear-facing camera instead of the 4 megapixel ultra pixel camera, which was
Is it still duo sensor though?
Yes, still duo. Which, so you'll have all those After Effects and all that fun stuff. 16 gigs of onboard storage. That's the only option they're going to offer. Has a micro SD slot, naturally, and a slight bump in the battery to 2840 milliamp hour capacity. So, I mean, kind of on pay, it's pretty much the same phone, although it's supposed to be cheaper, but it is priced at 379 pounds, which converts to roughly 564 US dollars, although we have no inclination or
it's a Euro phone pretty much.
Exactly.
Right?
It should just be a Euro phone. We won't see it in America. I mean, if they actually brought that to America, God forbid, I mean, that would be bad news bears because I mean, it's an M8 with just weaker specs. And that's the sad thing though, like the M8
probably a better camera.
Right. The M8 was a flagship last year, but now compared to this year's flagships, it's a mid-range to high-end phone. It's not a flagship anymore. So to bring this phone, it would be considered low-end. So, I mean, still the Snapdragon 615 octa-core, 2 gig, 13 megapixel rear-facing camera. It's a decent set of specs, but like we stated, it's probably not coming to America. So
probably not. All right, sweet. Well, any final words on any of the S6 Edge, M9, any of that stuff? Kind of just spent an hour talking about it.
Yeah, no, I'm super excited to get the full review done. We'll get the reviews up next week. That's at least the plan. But then after that, I go on a long trip, and I'm hoping it's a long flight. So I'm hoping, the battery really kind of, I'll definitely be keeping people posted on the battery life because it's going to be a big deal. So
yeah, you are going to be traveling, so it'll be a good time to further test for sure.
Exactly. So hopefully I can come back with some real usage and some awesome videos and pictures and all that stuff. I'm gonna try and document the whole trip pretty well. So should be a good time.
Yeah, it should be good. Let's see. We haven't mentioned G4, but LG confirmed this week that the G4, well, we don't know if it's going to be called the G4, but I'm sure it is. We'll have a brand new 5.5 inch quad HD display. Let's see, they improved gamma, brightness, contrast, has some special touch technology that even if there's water on it, you can still interact with it, and it's super thin. And yeah, that's all we know though. But they did say it's going to be in the next flagship, which will be announced at the end of April, and they're having a press event on April 28th, one in New York and one in like Paris or something.
And that's a super bummer for me, 5.5 inches, yeah.
Because you think it's too big?
I think it's too big. Yeah.
What about the G3? The G3 felt good in hand because they slimmed it all up. And
I know. Well, yeah, but then like going back to the G3 from like a smaller display, your hand just gets used to things.
Yeah.
It's hard switching, going back and forth. I mean, the G3 still feels good in hand, no doubt.
Mm-hmm.
But I could do with a bit smaller, maybe like 5.3.
She's just trying to be in that like middle ground, so they're like not phablet territory, but they're just a little bit bigger than a phone.
Just give me anything smaller than the Whale Nexus 6 and I'll be fine. I won't complain. I'm sorry, I'll stop complaining.
Do we think the G4 is going to be awesome or not
G4?
Awesome?
Oh man, it really depends on the software. Like if LG can stop just whatever it is they're doing with their software. Like on the G Flex 2, man, it has Lollipop and all that. It still looks cartoonish and crappy. So
yeah,
if they can get rid of like the jank and whatnot and just kind of like clean it up a bit. Like I don't like the colors. It's not very it's
what
not
if they release another plastic phone? Like, are you gonna be pissed if they release another plastic phone, or does it not really matter as long as the whole experience is awesome?
You can still make a premium device out of plastic, no doubt about it. I guess it just depends. They went for a metallic look. They made the plastic look metallic.
Yeah.
And so I think that's kind of where you go wrong. The phone, the G3, super light. So I think that has an advantage to it. So if they go big phone, still plastic, it'll be nice and light, and won't cut your hand because it has edges and all that. But yeah. I'd be happy either way. I think they're going to go plastic because there's that report saying that there's a phone supposed to be even more premium than the G4.
Yeah, so that'll
the G4
be the metal one.
Yeah, that could be the metal one. Who knows at this point? I guess if I had to guess, I would go that the G4 will be metal. I'm just going to throw that out there, and that they're going to move away from plastic to keep up with Samsung. But I won't be surprised if it's plastic.
I have this really bad feeling that LG is going to have not such a good year. I don't know why I feel that way. Like, they had a really good year last year. The G3, without a doubt, really amazing phone. I just have this bad feeling that this year is going to be like, this is going to be their Galaxy S5 year, where they just kind of misstep and they're like a year behind of really innovating. I don't know. And we thought maybe the G4 would have like a curved display and stuff. I don't think so. Like this press release for this display mentions nothing about a curve. So
yeah, it'll probably be flat, and the colors probably won't be as saturated as Samsung's display. I mean, the Quad HD, it looks good, but you just can't get that same amount of quality, that color from the LCD. So
the nice thing is LG, as it looks like they're going to do what they've done the last couple of years. As they lead up to the announcement of their phone, they release like press releases that talk about like the little things that make up the phone. Sort of Samsung did the same thing this year.
right.
So we know what the display is. They'll probably talk about like the camera module, and then they'll probably talk about like some battery, something about like their software suite. So we'll kind of know like everything that's going to be in it, and then they just have to like unveil the we'll know more over the next couple of weeks, I would imagine.
Absolutely.
Yeah. All right, cool. What else you want to talk about? We've been going for an hour.
Yeah, we could talk apps real quick, and then
Let's talk apps.
The only app I have to talk about today is Ultra Tuner. As a guitarist, I won't say musician because I'm not a musician. I bang on a guitar, and I wouldn't call that music. Regardless, it's an app called Ultra Tuner. And what I like about Ultra Tuner, it does cost $4.99 in Google Play. I can just say if I'm just playing an electric guitar that's not hooked up to an amp, I can just hit on a string, and the app seems ultra sensitive. Like I can tune an electric guitar not being hooked up just by using the phone's mic, and then on-screen kind of chromatic tuner. So I can go EAD, GBE, and tune it just fine. And then if I am hooked up to an amp, it's even better. It sounds super, it looks super clean. It kind of just gives you like the rotating light, and then holds on green when you're in tune at 440 Hertz. And it sounds good. You can adjust a lot of the different levels. If you're in the studio, you can see the actual sound waves or the lengths that is kind of making up the actual tone. So if you need super precise tuning, it seems pretty good. iRig makes these little connectors that where you can take the phone, plug it into the iRig, then the iRig into your guitar. So it's good, say if you're on stage or something, you know, it's a nice little companion. There's plenty of other tuning options out there, but I liked the Ultra Tuner. I like the UI of it. It's very easy to manage. So if you do play guitar, or even other stringed instruments, it is able to do like a cello or a violin or something like that, because it's just a basic chromatic tuner. It's pretty cool. I know you don't play guitar, but guitar people nerd out over tuners and stuff, and I enjoy it quite a bit.
Is it free or does it cost something?
It costs $4.99. There's no additional in-app purchases or anything like that. But and like I said, there are other options out there. I happened to find this one recently because it's brand new to Google Play, and I enjoyed it quite a bit, so I wrote it up. And if you play some guitar, you get down on the old banjo, check out Ultra Tuner. One word.
Nice. I don't really have any apps. I've just been like playing with phones. I haven't downloaded anything new recently.
You're too busy to play with apps anymore.
Seriously. I download like kid games and stuff.
Granny
By
Smith.
the way, that's a market that sucks, is like little kid games. So my son's like 16 months. Like there's no like cool games. It's all like pop the bubble. Like that's stupid. It's basically like bubbles will float with like animals in them, and the kid's just supposed to like tap on the bubble. Like, you know, the simplest thing ever. But that's like it. There's drawing games, and he doesn't really know how to draw yet. He just like squiggles his hand or whatever. I guess that could be fun. Otherwise, like pop the bubble. Somebody needs to come up with a cool like 1 to 2 year old game.
I think my niece is about your son's age, and I gave her there's one called Ethereal Dial Pad, which just kind of like makes noise when you touch on it, like different, like again, like chromatic scales, and sounds really cool. And then she also loves like a fart soundboard. Oh man, she loves the fart soundboard.
I'm sure her parents love the fart soundboard.
Yeah, my brother, he really appreciated me when I showed it to him. So. Sure. I mean, little kids love farting sounds. I mean, what's wrong with you? You're young, you're innocent, you know, live it up while you can. Make like diarrhea sounds and stuff. It's a good time. I enjoy it. I'm like 20. Oh, I don't even want to say how old I am. I just had a birthday. I'm too old. So.
That's really funny.
Yeah.
All right, cool. Well, anything else?
No, I think that'll do it. Be on the lookout for the reviews.
Yeah, be on the lookout for reviews next week.
Absolutely.
It's going to get busy. Yeah, we got lots to talk about. There's lots of stuff going on with these phones, so should be fun. Oh, Droid Razor Head says I like Minima Pro live wallpaper. Minimal Live Pro Live Wallpaper, by the way, is like the greatest app ever.
It's a good one. I'm afraid to download like crazy live wallpapers on the phone yet because I'm just trying to like test the battery. So maybe once the review's up, then I can kind of see maybe where it fluctuates and stuff.
Well, I sort of stopped using it as a live wallpaper. I just go in and make a really cool wallpaper, and then you can just create a wallpaper from the live that's just a still wallpaper, and then I just put that on.
You want to update them on the hiring, the job positions that are up? Give an update. Yeah. Someone asked.
So we're still going through that. We kind of have a narrowed list that we're gonna look to contact. Hopefully next week. So we'll move forward and hopefully have a couple new dudes around the site, or girls, not just dudes, peeps, I should say.
Anybody.
Yeah, anybody. So yeah, we're moving along with that. It's just we're so damn busy. It's taking longer than we thought, but yeah, still doing that.
Don't worry.
Yeah, don't worry. All right. I got nothing else then.
Cool. I hope everyone enjoys their weekend. I hope it's nice and sunny and not too snowy.
Yes, have a great weekend, everyone. Thanks for joining us. DL Show episode 81.
In the
We're out. Peace.
Peace.
Bye.